Alright, who let Morphtronic FTK come back into the format? Who was it? Don't beg 30% of you that have not smashed the ever-living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so you guys don't miss out. More Oz content. We have your Kentucky regional breakdown here, and this Morphtronic list has been floating around all day. So many people are just super excited to see that the absolute monster of a deck is doing things. And, I mean, I'm super excited to talk about it here in a second. So, of course, we had one Morphtronic FTK. We had two Tier Elements players in the top cut of this regional, which is pretty impressive, honestly. A lot more people have been kind of discovering that the deck is playable right now. And by playable, I mean everything is like very region-based across the board here. As more and more people are going, well, you know, hey, I can test something from this region. I can have success over here, and it really kind of just depends. Sprite also had two representatives in top cut here. Once again, I'm not surprised about that either. Sprite, I mean, has been like the consistent go-to. We've talked about, you have the Adventure build, you have the Evil Twin Runic Sprite variant, you have regular, you have all of these different variations that are coming to success rate here, and I think that's pretty impressive. We also had a Dynamorphia in top cut. Where in the world did that? Morphtronic FTK, and then we have Dynamorphia. Okay, I mean, I feel like I've seen a lot of things this week. We also have a Kashtira player kind of bringing it on home as well here, so good old Reliable, as we're going to call it here. And then we have Vanquish Soul riding on in here as well with another top 8 finish as well. And then, of course, the Morphtronic FTK. So overall, just kind of like looking at everything here, I'm happy with these results. Everything that we're seeing here across the board shows that the format is in a particularly crazy good spot right now. And, well, I hope things continue on that way. Let's take a look at some of these deck lists, shall we? Winning our event here is none other than good old Kashtira. Yep. So we're just on 2 Bryce right now, which is fine. You see some defensive options here in the book section, which also is pretty consistent. Talents with the thrust, and then, I mean, everything else looks pretty standardized out here for Kashtira. It's not like this deck has had to go through a crazy level of change, but I mean, Kaijus look like they've taken a backseat in the format, which is something that I don't particularly understand why they themselves would just kind of roll back out of the format, but okay, because of that, more and more players are kind of, I guess, getting more free wins out here with this. Also, I mean, we just went right back to the Lava Golems here. Honestly, being able to have Lava Golem clean up 2 monsters instead of the smaller amount of things that we were kind of seeing before, covering your bases to make sure that, you know, the larger amount of monsters are able to be cleaned up. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Next up here, oh, wow, this is standard Dynamorphia with triple wannabe. Okay, so triple wannabe makes sure that you can trigger your end phase stuff and maximize your value. I see that, of course, we have Gozen Match right now. Honestly, Gozen Match isn't a terrible choice right now. This just being able to attribute lock your opponent. Okay. Also, Solemn Judgment in this deck is always going to feel nice. 1 life point divided by 1 in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Rounds up to 1. Remember that. We also have, of course, triple Ferret Flames in here. The card that just makes your opponent go, really? Like, how am I supposed to beat that? Well, the answer is you're really not. The resolution of this actually probably will ensure that you win the game. This is one of the funnier cards in the entire game you get. No Supreme King Zark stuff, actually. I do like Zark, but this build just opted to not even need it. So, very, very nice to see that. Next up here, wow, this is very basic stuff here. We actually have Soul Scissors back here for Melfi. You do see that we do have the split here for these, which is incredibly good. Let's see here. Yeah, the 1 Soul Scissors. I haven't seen this in a little while, but I think that this is a nice little fine addition to kind of bring back to the pile here. Let's see here. We're still playing Droll, which I think is fine. There's a lot of people right now that Droll will catch them off guard, and you will be able to win free games with this. And then, of course, the standard Fenrir to Fenrir, if something actually ends up happening. you have the second one to make sure that you can try to clean up whatever issues that you have. And then, yeah, all the more basic stuff in the world here. You have these for going second, you have these disrupt spells, and then you have Hadoken here to clean things up, and then Ghost Spell and Dimension Shifter, both being very, very strong cards for you to do what you need with. So, yeah, good to see that this deck did well. Next up, this is hilarious. So these are the perpetrators of what we're going to call the FTK. Now, how does this work? Well, you need to load up 2 Telephons and then the Cannon Soldier. Now, you're probably asking yourself, how in the world am I supposed to achieve this? Well, you have this little guy right here that kind of grants you some extension options. And then we're actually playing Dice Dungeon. On activation, you add a Dimension Dice from your deck to your hand, and then you can apply all these other effects, which you don't really care about. You just care that you can search for Dimension Dice. If you control a card with a card effect that requires a dice roll, tribute 1 monster, special summon 1 monster with an effect that requires a dice roll from your hand or deck. This is not, and I repeat, this is not on a once per turn. Alright, so you can deep draw through your entire deck here. If you see double dimension dice, or if you see, the ability to get these cards up and loaded, you're good to go. You just have to get to the Cannon Soldier, and that's a very easy task, in my personal opinion. You have so many ways to just turbo through this. As long as you can see the enabler for the FTK, which is this guy, yeah, you're good to go. That's all it takes. So I will give them some credit here. By far, one of the most innovative piles of cards that I have seen out here. And the fact that somebody actually made use for Dungeon and for Dimension Dice actually in competitive applications, very nice. Also, shout out to Magical Honda here, actually being a hilarious card that you can board in for this. Alright, we have a Vanquish Soul list here. So, Vanquish Soul sporting off, there can only be one. This is what I've been talking about. So many people out here in this format have just not been playing TC Boo. I still don't understand that. Like, you can do all of the combo lines and everything that you want to do with this deck, but the fact that this deck just is able to combo up, make all this, advantage that it wants to make, and then you can combo through and then just, have your hand traps, your interruptions here. It amazes me that people just opt not to go down these lines of play, and they think that, maybe Parallel Exceed would be better. It depends on how you want to build this yourself, but option trees look very, very standard. Shout out to the Bysteals down here with Pinkertouts Traditional going second, and then we have Anti-Spells and Evenly Matched to control every other aspect that we need. Also, shout out to Small World in this deck. I haven't seen this card show up as like a multitude of 3 of, but this has been pretty strong for what we've seen here. Next up here we have, this is our top 16 Adventure Dragon Link. Wow. So, didn't quite make the top 8 mark, but I think that's fine. You do see that Black Metal Dragon here still doing its thing. It's nice to see the Adventure package actually coming back into the format here. Hadn't really seen a lot of that. Then, of course, I've kind of noticed that Fallen of Albas has been a very, very awesome tech choice that this deck has been able to play, because it gives you access to, these little bits and pieces down here. And I mean, also, let's be honest here, being able to toggle Heavenly Spheres into a Fallen of Albas, and you're like, oh, cool, now I get to go ahead and fuse with your field, and your opponent's just like, what am I supposed to do about this? There isn't really much that you can do, but usually tearing apart a field in the form of the interruption chain that you can set up with this deck is pretty good. Once again, little tech choices like this really do bring this deck on like a whole nother level of metagame. Next up is a 51st deck profile. Somebody's gonna be like, why are we covering this, Robbie? I got Senate. I figured we'd go ahead and talk about it because you haven't seen a lot of Mana Diem out here. It shows up every blue moon, but it's cool to see like the lines of play that people are bringing to the table. Like the really cute ideas that they want to try. Obviously, you're going to toggle through the Scareclaw lines to, make sure that you can see this. And then the whole rest of, like, the deck scheme plan is very, very standard. Shout out to Deck Lockdown here. This is actually a very cool tech choice that I haven't seen, like, a lot of right now, but the fact that, a deck like this can actually play, go through full combo, you're like, oh, we'll Deck Lockdown. Your opponent now has to, handle, this, try heart. It's not a very good position that you want to find yourself in the metagame, that's for sure. So what do you guys think about the breakdown out here for Kentucky. Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I look forward to seeing what other good things exist in the format. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.